everybody. I think I over-prepared. Is everyone comfortable?
Oh yeah.
This one is named after the Greek goddess of discord, Eris. Eris. A lot of glare on the freeways of the tri-state area. I'd like a handful of cold, fresh raspberries to eat. Some people stare on the streets openly or look at their feet. I'd spike my own drink with pills in this heat. You make me have a feeling, often I don't have one. My hopes get dashed. I feel I belong nowhere. My sneakers are untied. All the guys in the offices are leaving for lunch. I cut sales from financial districts. If cities are brains, they would be the brain-damaged parts of them. Everyone isolated on phones. I hunch over the poem like it's "You Are My Enemy." Everything I test by lines. Write down things I recall feeling other times. This is the product of a lot of people talking. Everything seems to rhyme initially, then gets messed up. That's right, of course I remember you now. I should say this is going to be in a book that's forthcoming from Nick Whittington's Burden Beckett imprint, and I'm really excited. It's called Local News, and it's forthcoming later this spring or early summer sometime. So the next one that I'm going to read is definitely in response to the last reading that I was here for Jack Frost, Evan Kennedy, and David Brazil read, and it was awesome. It was a really good reading. And so thank you to David and Sara, and thank you to Cedar. Thank you to the Bay Area Public School. This one is called Difficulty at Pinnacles. What world was that? Where fled red weather and all the rest? Today's illusions, emptiness, take the shape of a French press and mug, blue ceramic turtle on bookshelf, a book of essays on teaching Stevens. A scholar there writes, section 2 of 13 Ways shows ambivalence to the point of eccentricity, the intellectual's fate. Not noticing, I guess, the rhyme, nor what the scientists call superposition, how two or more things can occupy the same place. Ideas, for instance, at the same time. Keats mentions it in a letter to his brothers. Aperiodic systems in the Tuesday-Sunday Science Times, and a document loading wheel when I click on Jim O'Rourke's Eureka. I read primary sources instead. The lamp affixes its good old beam. Just as I see, there's no such thing. One's head arrives at it different. Tathagata. The stranger suggests you speak to Elvin Jones about Heidegger's missing third division. There's a place south of Paycines where boulders landed atop Slot Canyon some 23 million years ago and stayed, what Richard Sara might see in dreams. Massive and massively silent sections of grammar alien and at once familiar, confirmable as the Tunguska event. David Brazil writes, that old American hymn, Into the Woods My Master Went. How it sounds like Hawthorne. There's that country howl in Stevens, too, which the tenured gentleman elides, not himself being of three minds. A timing thing, I'm sure. As I was saying, as we drove down to Pinnacles, there's that upside-down world where I'm not so sure the Emerald Tablet's logic stands. More Heraclitus country or Elvin Jones. Condor country, at the windy red top of the weird old world where they circle. We were in their house. What world was that? Where the way up there was there too, present day for certain of us. Whalen, for example, where he writes, chaos is an ideal state. None of us has ever experienced it. We are familiar with confusion, muddle, and disarray. True disorder is inaccessible to us. Hawthorne's fascination with whatever goes on in the woods where, as the song says, my master went, is present. And what one knows the blackbird is involved with is present also as bigger birds revolve. And the way up here is present too in my diminished lung capacity on lupine, manzanita, juniper, and chemise. Indian paintbrush. Sally, the red ones reminded me of you. Tonight we'll sleep up high beneath a vault of constellations, asterisks to the bad old ideas under which we were born. So I'm going to read a few poems out of this other manuscript, Museum Travels in Silence, which is a lot of sort of thinking about paintings, I guess. Thinking about paintings and the way that they're hung in museums. So I've got two quotes that I want to put in front of these poems. First one is from Samuel Beckett. Indigence, we can never say it often enough, and decidedly, painting is incapable of that. The other one is from Dashiell Hammett. By the time he had eaten his luncheon, he had found his means of adjustment. Eve and all in roller skate rhythm, affairs of state. Apostrophe bothers me. To have nothing at all, Millbrae, East Bay, or elsewhere entirely, Flitcraft. Tar paper shacks scaled to size, rusted tin, corrugated roofs, shipping containers, and potted palms on the wharf of a restaurant lazily extending into lake under construction. Bader Meinhof bike storage steeple. It's an $18 lunch in the financial district. Back under softly green lit exit sign, air out of order. I opt for the reverse, linking things to their raven. This one's called Kitchen Drawl. Bright, lazy panic of yellow cranes, drawing the residential districts from the shoulder. Snow-bright laundrette, and a king crab sandwich for lunch. Construing dull book of itself there in the corner. Obviously you use the thing's inertia to drop it into place. This one is titled Human in the Loop, and Human in the Loop is a form of when they test things, like cars, for example, to make sure that they're safe. Human in the Loop test is where they use an actual person to do that. Anyway, Human in the Loop. Quilt and bass drum, a mistake you pay increasing attention to. Put dimmer switch on shade of tree. This is the perfect thing to do. Warm winter yellows scotch the process. Heave dampener, and then snap tight as a jewel case. Thinly erupt into squiggly lines, something you can associate to. Calmly loading the boat with notes. One familiarizes the composition with, over the shoulder, that's not quite right, focus, to get out of the jam of describing. Like I said, I over-prepared. 5 sigma. Remember they got the Higgs boson particle? Apparently when they get to the point where they can almost prove that they proved it, they call that 5 sigma. So that's the title of this, 5 sigma. Have finished these entertainments, sheathe the conundrum at which Lucy and I stare, smartly curated so as to be opulent and rendered edible, slain quail draped over dining table, everyone changing costumes, audience, to keep the scene fresh and believable. Its evils most easily offset. Naturally, you allow the hand painting forest. I've got one longish poem from local news that I'm going to read, and then a few more. This one is entitled Missing Head. Missing head. Pinned butterfly, salted, frozen fruit, making meaning things more mere provisions, and readier to be thrown away. Lazy as an afternoon spent stripping copper wiring out of sheetrock in an unfinished subdivision. Slowly separating power cables, plates of California light. The turning names multiple concepts. Insight, but also more deadly in framing. Forgottenness, or coming to pass of oblivion. The basis for my taste in music died homeless outside Boulder. I'll read you one of the fragments he wrote, drunk on Beam one night, in a beachside town south of here. Maybe I have cat scratch fever, or maybe fuego en mi casa. The Spanish did not conquer me, like the last time I looked for cities of gold, or that silly fountain that would make me endure. Sometimes I cannot believe the sun comes up. Does it know something I don't? Between A's games and high lifes, he and I would work on these pieces of the puzzle. Thrownness, however, he never understood as separate from the leap. I wonder if he had any cigarettes on him by the trailhead, and how cold it would have been that time of year in Colorado. Aristotle called poetry improper language, but he also seemed wrong in believing there is a ground zero for philosophical thought. I'm sorry. And I agree with you too, as the days go by, anger is more the way I feel than anything else. As fucked as it sounds, it is true that the best of him was gone years ago. I stopped looking for a logical explanation. Lemonade in one hand, beer in the other. Go slow, son, go slow. There's no disquiet that one cloud could uncover, strapped by sunlight to a plowed couch on the porch, watching a day like today speak its giant language through the disappearance of the only cloud for miles. Strangeness is a sight where being shows up. And this is exactly what's uncanny or unhomely about us as humans. To shepherd the truth into its house, the poem, and not instead challenge it forth as a pitifully useful tool of itself. And when I think he was one of the smartest and funniest humans, the human parts, generosity, openness, responsibility, though they were at capacity, he never trusted in others enough to get them up and running. Here's one more I found in the past 2 months. It's called Fuck You. And it goes, I write because I'm awake in moss, green, and it's raining outside. Minivans and orange sweatshirts. A green-eyed cat that wants me as a master. Or maybe a give-and-take relationship. Gone now, or is that the minivan? No, it's the cat. That's the whole fragment. Experts say drug addicts and others, including jobless electricians and plumbers, are finding that copper and other metals are relatively easy to steal and sell to junk dealers, who are largely unregulated. For those seeking a quick buck, there is nothing quite like metal. It is 91 degrees, I read in Boulder today, mostly cloudy, with wind coming in from the west. The forecast is for thunderstorms Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, clearing and sunny Saturday. Speaking is hearing X. Us, humans, are reminded of it whenever we open our mouths. Not any ghost in the machine type of shit. The last summer I had was in October, drenched in sun and beer. Now there's no sweat, still noir to line up as little agons, mortals, needed and used for the speaking of language. I just have like 3 more.
Do it.
These are from a series that I've been making, possibly entitled Hairy Man. This one is called Painting, Smoking, and Eating in Ohio. And it's for Patrick Dunnigan. Painting, smoking, and eating in Ohio. Little left to tell. I can see how we made an awful mistake inviting him to our ice cream picnic. He moved from where they had been together by the old oaken tree, village lights, in a last attempt to obtain relief. What ails that cat? As he notes in his essays, he was discharged from the Army in 1919 and returned to Salem, Ohio, where he resumed his job at the W.H. Mullins Company. Unfamiliar room, unfamiliar scene. Relief, he had hoped, a ghostly brick tossed from one to the other. He began searching the surrounding towns and villages for subject matter. In his long black coat, no matter the weather, and old-world Latin quarter hat. In his dream, in banded structure, space recedes to a clouded, overcast sky at the top. Here's a brick that was made from land the Indians used to own. Here's a babbling brick for you. Hillside, kettle, sandwich, ladder, head.
I've never been to Ohio.
Well, it's a postcard. I've been there for a while. Gray and Gold, 1942. This is for Jackson Measle. This old sorry horse will now predict the end of the race. 104 conducted jointly, a double-page color feature, a top